And so the next slide is, what is this going to cost us? And we're taking a look at this from a business viewpoint first, and then we'll spin it around to the end user or the attendees who are listening to the webinar today. So, Emma, what do you think? What is it going to cost business to start doing this?
The main concern for companies when they're confronted with the need for this type of change is, well, what's it going to cost? And often, perhaps not as often as 5 years ago, but certainly still very often, the thinking is that, okay, once we've authorized the purchase of this software, we're done. And then we'll leave it to the line managers to actually get it up and running.
Yeah, or the IT people or whatever.
Yeah. And, the smaller companies say, well, when we calculate the cost, we'll take into account what the, cost of ownership is. So, how much is it going to cost us to keep it running, not just to have it, to buy it in the first place. But it still doesn't give you the whole picture. If a factory retools its production line to start a new vehicle, for instance, in an automobile factory, what happens is that, the people whose roles are no longer required get retrained, they get transferred to other departments, and this retooling, what is included in the cost of that retooling is restructuring costs, which means helping people move forward, helping people move along, helping people change. While in some cases there probably is money put away for training, because obviously new software, IT says, well, you've got new software, we have to train people on how to use it. But it still doesn't give quite the whole picture. Again, the cost of change is also the cost of not changing.
Oh, well, before you go there, let me address this question from Philip from Paris, which dovetails right into this. Philip asks, where do I start? Phasing and scope. In other words, probably right here, if I had to guess, with measuring. Now, I think, will be the argument you'll make. So is that the argument you'll make? Is that how you start?
Well, yes, that is how you start. And we'll talk a little bit in further depth of that further down when we start talking about, okay, what can you do about it? Yes, even if your company may not be in the discussion about should we do it, should we not do it, if you feel that they should do it, then what you should do is really start measuring now what the cost of your document production or your managing your web content, what that costs now. List all the things that you're not doing. List all the things you'd like to do but never have time for, and identify how that would benefit the end user or the public or the customers or whatever. And participate in webinars like this where you get a different perspective. And there's one of the comments that has come in is from Mike, who isn't sure he agrees with the comment that consultants don't like talking about change. Well, if he does, then more power to him.
Yeah, I think what you actually said, and we'd have to play it back to get the verbatim transfer of information there, but what I was thinking was the point you were making is that software companies, especially their services division, that's not what they lead off with. And in fact, it's very seldom that they actually tell you, hey, by the way, our XML software that we're going to sell you for your authors, that it's going to require them to learn how to author in a modular fashion. And they fail to probably tell you, because it's not a strong selling point, but it's a fact that some people won't take well to that. They won't. It won't be in their nature to easily write reusable content. So it's not just about training somebody to use the software anymore. Now it's about training them, how do I think about content as objects? And that goes to Deborah's point, because she said we need some examples before we go on of what change means, because she doubts so far that some people in the audience might know what we're talking about. So, Deborah, what we're talking about is there's a big change to moving toward content management, and it's not about buying tools. It's about rethinking the way that you organize and create information. It's about writers thinking about content in a nonlinear fashion. It's about thinking about the content that you write and knowing where in advance it's going to be used so that you can use your creativity to create content that fits well in all of those different media. It's also...
And if I could just jump in there with another example, a client that I've been working with is a manufacturing company of medical devices, and their systems have grown organically, as they have with most companies. It's, we need to do something, and we have one product line, so let's just do it. And then the next product line comes in, and there's not necessarily a need to say, what can we use from the previous product line, but they may do everything all over again. What subsequently happened is, just to give you an idea, is that if one of their dealers needs to order parts, there's a 2-inch Phillips head screw that is used in pretty much every product line they make, but for each particular piece of equipment, that one screw, that same screw, has different part numbers. And so how are you ever going to reuse that information? How are you ever going to reuse that image if every part number is different? So it's not just, and these are the things that come up when you start implementing the CMS. All these other things, what might be brushed off as peripheral issues, suddenly come to the front. And what it ultimately means is that when you input a content management system, again, for some companies it will be less impactful than for others, but you're also talking about a massive corporate culture change. And the impact of a content management system on, for instance, an engineering department, and the way that it assigns part numbers is obviously, as you can tell from this example, quite huge.
Well, and then there are all these.
Thought of that one before, I can tell you.